Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 7th episode of the Startup Boston podcast, where I interview entrepreneurs, investors, and influencers in the Boston startup community to uncover actionable advice and stories from their experiences. I'm your host, Nick Dupuy. Today, I sit down with Andy Levitt, founder and CEO of the Purple Carrot, a plant-based meal delivery kit. In this episode, some of the topics Andy talks about are the logistics issues of a subscription service, how they're able to manage their food inventory to minimize waste, the importance of getting comfortable being uncomfortable, and what's most important when starting a subscription-based company. As always, you can find links to everything mentioned in the show notes, which can be found at startupbostonpodcast.com. Enjoy the episode. Andy Levitt, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. I want to talk a lot today about both vegan diets and about the Purple Carrot. But first, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm a entrepreneur that loves to create something out of nothing, and really proud of what we've got going here with Purple Carrot, which is a plant-based meal kit that I started in 2014 in the fall. I live in Needham, Massachusetts with my wife, and we've got 4 little kids, 7, 5, 3, and 1. So they keep me pretty busy as well. They're like my other startup, and I'm thrilled to be here with you.
Thank you. So before we start talking about Purple Carrot, tell me, what does a vegan diet entail?
Sure. So vegan diet is followed by people who are choosing for either ethical or health or environmental reasons to eat a diet that does not include any animal products or dairy. And there are folks who can be purely vegan. There's plenty of people, though, who eat sort of a part-time vegan diet. So unlike, in some ways, vegans might say you're either a vegan or not, like you're either pregnant or not. But we're big fans of embracing the concept of part-time veganism to help people get a little bit closer to following that kind of diet. Interestingly enough, there's more people today who are formerly vegan than who currently are vegan. And that signals to me that there's a real opportunity to give people the opportunity to embrace more of a part-time vegan diet, because it can be difficult to follow and people can easily fall off the wagon, so to speak. And I think the more people can embrace the concepts behind that, the better off a lot of us will be.
So what do you think causes people to, like you said, fall off the wagon? Why are there so many former vegans than current vegans?
You know, I think it's a deep-seated behavioral pattern in humans to eat meat. And there's cravings that people have for meat or for dairy. And in as much as the industry has developed and is starting to provide an incredible array of really fantastic vegan choices and, you know, dairy-free or meat-free substitutes that can help with the transition. I think it's, you know, as people go out to eat, they might struggle to find the right things, or they're out with friends and there's nothing there. Eventually, they'll just slip. I think from my perspective, as I've become more and more aware of the implications of this, I've started to crave any of that dramatically less. And so it's a really rare moment now that I'll eat beef or chicken. I still eat fish at times, but have embraced a plant-based diet largely as the way I eat. And I think it's, you know, once the genie's out of the bottle, it's hard to put that back in.
Mm-hmm. So are you a part-time vegan?
Yeah, I'm a part-time vegan, I would say. You know, I've started, what started for me of sort of a curiosity has evolved to something that I feel a lot more passionate about now more than ever. I had dinner last night with my dad and brother, and, you know, my dad asked me, like, you know, oh, so now is this how you're eating from more of a political perspective? And I said, it's not really political. It's just, you know, as you start to understand the implications of, you know, sort of choosing to eat a plant-based diet or not, it starts to become a very easy choice to make those decisions. And there's enough options that people can follow to make it a little bit easier.
So were you always a vegan, a part-time vegan? Or?
No. So I'm 45 years old, almost 46, and it's hard to believe, but really up until 2 years ago or so, when I was starting to think about Purple Carrot, did I even become much more conscious of what that means to be vegan. People can be vegan, though, and eat Oreos and drink Diet Coke all day, and that doesn't necessarily mean healthy. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where the emphasis around being plant-based or plant-centric has resonated a lot more with me, which is eating a lot more of a whole foods-based diet, a lot less processed ingredients, and at the same time staying away from animal proteins and dairy. So it has only been recently, and so from 2 years ago when I first started thinking about it, and then really this arc of growth for me personally through my experience with Purple Carrot has really changed the way I look at food and think about it.
What were your reasons for initially trying the vegan diet?
So it was really much more of an opportunistic entrepreneurial approach where at that time, 2 years ago, I was the farthest thing from a vegan and had probably a very skewed perception of what it meant to be vegan, and the picture in my mind's eye that would create maybe similar to what a lot of folks would think about vegan, which is where vegan is such a polarizing word for those reasons, and plant-based tends to be a bit softer and easier to process or create a different type of image. But I looked at the growth in the convenience economy. I looked at the growth in the meal kit space. I looked at sort of trends on Google, even of the search for the term vegan or veganism, and felt that there was a nice window of opportunity to explore this niche as the large players, Blue Apron, HelloFresh, and Plated, which at the time were really the three large, well-funded national meal kits, none of them offered a plant-based approach. And having seen the documentary Forks Over Knives, I was completely blown away by the knowledge of how medicine or food could be medicine as compared to medicine as medicine, which was where I spent 20 years of my professional life, was promoting Western medicine in the pharmaceutical sector. And taking a look at that documentary in early 2014 really shifted my mindset and felt like there was a very important work to be done to educate consumers on the potential value of a plant-based diet and even embracing that in a part-time manner. And that's what really sort of got the idea for Purple Carrot started.
Do you think that there are certain types of people that can benefit most from a plant-based diet? Or is it something that everyone can benefit from?
I would say that everyone could benefit and does benefit from a plant-based diet. There are dramatic health problems in this country that plant-based diets have shown to either reverse or improve, whether that's cardiac disease, diabetes, high blood pressure. It's really quite pronounced. And having, again, been a big proponent of Western medicine for so many years of my professional life, it really flips it on its head to think about moving away from any sort of pills and medicine to then just focus on thinking about what we eat and what we consume. And so everybody really could benefit and should benefit from this kind of approach. There are massive health issues and massive environmental issues that our country and our planet is facing. And there's a wealth of scientifically proven data that is out there that speaks to the value and the benefit of following a plant-based diet to both improve your health outcomes and certainly make a very positive impact on our environment.
Do Americans eat more meat than the rest of the world?
Americans eat a substantial amount of meat. China also eats a substantial amount of meat, though they've recently put forth recommendations to inhabitants of China to reduce their meat consumption. And I'd love to see the United States take a similar approach.
Why do we have meat as such a large proponent of our diets here?
I think really it's driven by the government and the industry and people who are very powerful to influence the way we eat and how food is promoted and underwritten by the government with large-scale production of corn that feeds a lot of cattle and pays for a lot of farmers and increases a lot of jobs. And it's a really amazing macroeconomic story to understand. And it just perpetuates the ability for people to eat cheap food that may be filling to them, but is really quite detrimental.
What do you think most people misunderstand about being vegan?
I think people perceive vegan as fringe. I think people think about eating vegan as kind of weird, layered with a lot of tofu and items that they think wouldn't taste very good. Yeah. And part of our mission with Purple Carrot is to help people understand how meals can taste really delicious without sacrificing flavors, where you eat a plate of food and you don't even miss the meat because there was so much flavor there. Mm-hmm. So I think that misperception is that it's only for sort of tattooed freaks in Vermont or Brooklyn or somewhere, and that it's not nearly as mainstream as it truly is. And while we're not yet mainstream with vegan, I think it's no longer as fringe the way it was once perceived.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, especially with the taste thing, because you gave me some samples here when I came in, and I was surprised by how good they were.
Thank you.
So if someone wants to try being vegan, how do you recommend that they give it a try? Is there a certain, path to more success?
Sure. So, the way people, I think, it's interesting. People might think of vegan as kind of cool, right? And it might have a little bit of that element today in our social consciousness. And that if you can tell people, yeah, I'm a little bit vegan, or I'm trying vegan food, it's probably looked at in a generally positive light. And, I don't want to shill for our service so much, but Purple Carrot is, 2 or 3 nights a week, you can get plant-based meals and all the raw ingredients you need to make that at home. So that's a really great way to start. There are plenty of resources online of different places one can go by looking that up. But it's really, I think, just starting to kind of dip your toe in the water and realize once you start eating that way, you might feel better. You might feel like you're eating more cleanly. And if you want to take it to the next level, you can start looking at some documentaries that explore the connection between food and health and the environment. And, it won't be too long before you'll start getting into some animal rights issues, which can create a bit of a slippery slope, but it really starts to resonate and make you think differently about the choices we make and what choices we need to make with respect to animal suffering that does or does not need to occur, given the other choices we can eat on this planet and the different foods that are available to all of us. So the more you start peeling back the layers of that onion, I think the more impactful those messages start to be and the more changes you will make. But I think the gradual approach is the right way to start. And rather than just going cold turkey and dropping everything, you can start exploring various tastes and different substitutes as you evolve.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like easier way into it instead of just
absolutely
going hard stop on it.
Yeah.
So let's shift the conversation, talk more about Purple Carrot.
Sure.
So tell me more about Purple Carrot and who it's for and what it is.
Sure. So Purple Carrot is a plant-based meal kit that I started in October 2014. It is a subscription-based service. We provide meals for ideally, 2 people or a family, and those meals are available through about 75% of the United States right now through distribution out of Los Angeles and New York. And the whole concept is let us teach you how to eat plant-based. We ship all the raw pre-measured ingredients you need to cook 2 or 3 dinners every week. The recipes are developed by a team of chefs that we have who create an array of recipes that hit on a number of different culinary flavors and profiles and ethnicities. All the meals are quite easy to prepare, generally take about 30 to 40 minutes. They are balanced with health and flavor. They expose people to a lot of different textures, a lot of flavors. So it's both sort of a cooking adventure at the same time knowing that you're doing good for your health and for the environment.
So you have chefs that come up with your recipes. What is the process like from the idea of a chef having a recipe to it finding its way into someone's home?
It's really quite complicated, far more so than I think I ever realized when I was starting out the business, of the difficulty in creating amazing recipes that can be cooked in a reasonable amount of time for a reasonable fee that will fit into sort of a flavor profile and the palate of the American consumer. We go through a number of rounds, really countless rounds of testing of our meals, from the concept that either we receive from one of our chefs or an idea that we come up with, like the jackfruit slider, for example, that you just had, how we test that and get the right flavor profile, and then be able to test, retest, and retest again to make sure that the general consumer, the average consumer subscriber to our business, is going to be able to deliver and develop that recipe at home with the same level of quality that we might here in our test kitchen.
How often do the recipes change?
We change our recipes every single week.
Okay.
So it's a steady stream of new recipes that are going to come out. Every week we provide 3 new recipes, and then 2 of those recipes will be for sort of our family plan or a multi-person plan, whereas the 2-person plan gives you 3 different dinners every single week. So it keeps it really fresh, really interesting, and it's a big challenge for us, but it's an important one.
So I saw online that you have a guest chef series. Can you tell me more about that?
Sure. We thought that was a really fun way to expose a lot of great plant-based chefs to our audience and keep it really interesting for our subscriber base. So what we've done is we've partnered with about a dozen different plant-based chefs around the country whose recipes really impressed us and who would fit into our approach, who enjoyed being exposed or shared on our platform. And we help promote them, and their recipes make its way into the boxes every week. So we've been able to offer up a really interesting range of recipes through the whole summer. And that started at the beginning of the summer on June 21st, and will go through Labor Day.
Is the Purple Carrot, is it available nationwide, or is it in specific cities?
So as I mentioned, we have distribution centers in Los Angeles and New York. And from those 2 locations, we'll ship ground distribution to about 75% in the United States. So when you log into thepurplecarrot.com, one of the first things you have to do is put in your zip code, and that can confirm if we do deliver to your location. We generally cover the western third of the United States and everywhere from, say, the tip of Maine to the south of Georgia, a little bit of Florida, and then as far west as about Chicago. So it's a pretty good part of the country that's covered, and we're looking to continue to expand over time.
Looking back, so you've been in business now for almost 2 years, right?
Correct.
Is there anything that you would do differently if you were to start it over?
That's a great question. I'm sort of the belief that the right time to start something is right now. And I've been highly influenced by my friend and marketing mentor, Seth Godin, who has instilled that philosophy in my mind about, just go, and don't let perfection be the enemy of the good. And it's so easy to hesitate and wait. And while there are certainly plenty of mistakes I've made over the last 2 years and, challenges we've run into, I don't regret for a second anything that we've done, because it's just continued to make us better as we've learned and continue to improve our service.
What have been some of the largest changes that you've made?
So I think the most significant change is that when I launched the service, which started in my house, and we shipped our first boxes from our garage, actually, we started out with meal kits or meal plans and recipes that were only suitable for a family, or ideally suited for a family, and that there was a large amount of food intending to feed up to 4 people. And I think I looked at the world through the lens of my own family, where my wife and I at the time had 3 kids, and sort of thought, okay, this is a great service for people like us. And it was a pay-as-you-go service. We also included a snack at that time when we first began, because I thought about my kids and teaching them to eat healthfully. And if they could eat a healthy snack, it might teach them to crave less of like the sugary, chewy stuff and eat more whole food-based snacks. And as we evolved, we realized that wasn't the greatest approach, certainly, and that the cost of goods around that snack and those items was costing the company a lot more than the value was perceived by the customer, we thought. And so we also evolved further last November by introducing a 2-person meal kit. And that now represents 85% of our business today. So the family plan, which is sort of where we started, is less than 15% of our business today. And so that big change has been switching to the 2-person meal plan and also switching to subscription. So we used to be pay as you go because we were just sort of in a proof of concept mode. And then last November, when we also opened up our West Coast distribution to give us much greater geographic coverage, we also introduced the model as a subscription. And that's been a really important change for us as well.
How did you know that your customers, that your family plan plus the snacks, it wasn't what they really wanted, and some of them maybe were looking for like the 2-person plan? Is that through the feedback from the customers?
We did have a fair bit of feedback on that. I mean, there were certain diehards who loved the snack and always would request that or ask if they could buy extras for parties they were having. But it really just became sort of intuitive decision that we were missing out on a big segment of the market by not offering 2-person plans, or meal plans are more suitable for, a single person or a pair of roommates or a young couple, or even empty nesters, as we have a fair bit of our customers like that. And we're so glad that we've now introduced that line. And, but it was definitely a test and go. And we knew that we could always scale that back if it wasn't going to work. But it was sort of this, quickly test. And we knew once we launched it, that was going to be a big piece of the business.
Mm-hmm. What has been one of the toughest parts of growing Purple Carrot?
There's so many different challenges, I guess. I mean, it's a heavily people-dependent business with a substantial number of moving parts, far more than I think I ever realized when I started the business. And, when you think about the complexity of doing something online or, doing something on downloading a song or doing some digital transaction, all the effort was done up front. And then every time that action is taken, it's generally been proven to work and it happens. With this, there are so much potential for human error, whether it's, someone forgot to put an onion in the box, or someone didn't seal the bag properly and something leaked, or, something happened with FedEx and their delivery truck, or, any number of those kinds of human error issues that are just bound to occur, coupled with sort of the fragility of perishable produce. It just completely, raises the bar when we have things like incredibly hot days or heavy snowstorms, as we experienced last couple winters through the Northeast.
Mm-hmm.
It really challenges the ability to deliver with precision to our customers in a way that we would want and the way our customers might expect. And I think we've gotten better and better and better over time, but that's a really big challenge to execute with precision week after week after week. Where we have fallen short in those instances, I'm very proud of our customer service approach and the way we engage our customers and take ownership of the failure, even if it was from, say, FedEx. But they are representative of us, so we have to stand behind even their shortcomings. But that's been a big challenge. And I think the other really big learning was just the importance of team, and finding incredible people who are so dedicated and dialed into the mission and the values that we have and embrace our culture, and who are willing to sort of get behind this with the same level of heart and passion that I think I bring every day. And that's been a steady work in progress. And we've done really well with a lot of great people on our team. And some folks have stayed and haven't really lasted. And, that's just the natural churn of natural business. But I think finding and building on great team members is also key to our success.
What do you think is most important when hiring? Is it the passion for your product and your service? Something like it? Or
Yes. I think it's important that someone does have that passion and sees the value in what we do, that this is no longer just sort of another widget that they're selling, or, helping in the creation and distribution. What I found is sort of an early stage company is the benefit of looking to hire athletes, as I would call them, rather than getting functional experts right out of the gate. And we're at the place now where we're moving more towards the functional expert perspective. But I think in early days for startups, and I think that's where your listening audience might cater to, is the benefit of finding athletes who you might identify great skill sets in that one person, but having the knowledge that as a startup, your business is fluid, your business is going to evolve, and that people have to be able to be extraordinarily talented and almost athletic to handle a range of different business challenges, so that, as a business owner, you could turn to them if like, hey, here's this new opportunity. We hadn't really anticipated this a few months ago, but now this is really coming to the forefront for us, and someone's there to jump on it instead of then having to go out and hire another new person. So I think that's been a key learning for us.
Yeah. So like if you were to hire someone, say, for marketing, that person would realize that, I'm not only going to be doing marketing, I'm going to get my feet wet in some other things as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you brought up earlier about, managing the perishable foods.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you manage your food inventory?
So the nice thing about the whole business model of meal kits is the just-in-time mentality. And as we engage our subscribers, they have a certain cutoff date when they need to indicate if they will either be subscribing that week, either perhaps as a new customer or as a returning customer, if they were to pause or skip or cancel. So when those natural occurrences happen, we have enough visibility into that so that when we are anticipating the demand for the subsequent week, we're not buying until we have a very close perspective on what that demand is going to be. So as a result, it reduces our waste, which is a key component. If you compare us to a restaurant or you compare us to even a grocery store, there's a ton of what's known as spillage where food is going to spoil or get taken that isn't able to get sold. And so a big initiative for us is to ensure that our waste percentages are as low as possible, which we're able to do given the business model of knowing with enough lead time that we can generally get the right amount of produce with relatively minimal waste. And the waste that does occur, we donate to charities.
Okay. So you already pretty much know when you're buying the product, how much of it you need in order to fulfill what is coming next week. Right? Correct.
And there's certain items, so grains or beans, those kinds of items have long shelf lives, right? And sauces or spices, we can buy those in larger bulk without that much risk. Whereas something like cilantro or basil that's going to perish in a relatively small amount of time, you have to be able to buy that with a short window. And it's an incredible food system that we have that is makes it available for companies like ours and many others to get food at almost a moment's notice. With the volumes we're talking about, you do have to have more lead time than that, but we're able to really fine tune it where it's not as big of an issue as one would expect.
What do you think is most important when starting a subscription-based company?
I think the proof of concept is really helpful. There's, the way I looked at it when we started was to lower and reduce the barriers for people to try our product. And, the good news is that now the subscription model is almost expected by so many consumers that I don't think people perceive it as a bit of a hurdle the way I think I looked at it 2 years ago when making that decision. Do we make it subscription or pay as you go? So, I think from a subscription-based business, it is the way for businesses to grow. And as long as you're delivering a product that people love, then you're going to have happy customers that are thrilled to become a subscriber, because the value to the subscriber is kind of set it and forget it and let a company, whether it's Purple Carrot or others in different categories, be able to curate the meals or the smoothies or the clothes or, there's just so many different subscription verticals now that it's a really fabulous model that I think supports the consumer more than anything.
What is something you've learned about yourself since starting your own company?
I am not a great process guy. So I love to create. I love to inspire. I love to think about new ideas and try to drive change in that manner. But I think as the company has grown from really just me to now we've got north of 20 full-time employees, and we've got a lot of other external partners. We've reached a point where having a substantial amount of structure in place and process is very helpful to our growth. And I've been able to attract, colleagues of mine to then fill that role. So it's knowing that about yourself is, a first part. So it lets me sort of focus on the areas that I love and the things that I think I do well that are unique to me, and then fill in the gaps with a lot of other great, talented people.
How has it differed from what you expected for starting your own company?
So I've started companies before. So there's I think the similarity is that you just have to be comfortable being uncomfortable, and, getting comfortable with that and knowing, as Seth has preached about, this might work and this might not work. That's a really, there's tension to that statement, and having to just be comfortable that you're getting yourself into that and on for the ride, and it's a journey and you're always going to try to learn. That's kind of the way I think you have to embrace entrepreneurship. This is, I think, much like anything, things always take longer than you think. And so there is sometimes when you're, putting together your projections or your spreadsheets, things are going to look a certain way in a blue sky world. And, it's a steady, sort of slow and steady wins the race mentality that I think we have to take. So it is just a long road. And, I think the importance of just continuing to show up every single week after week after week and being there, adding value is what's so key. But I guess I'm not answering your question because you asked what's different. That's all what's similar. I guess what's different here is just the complexity of a consumer business dealing with highly perishable ingredients that it's like every week I'm opening up a brand new restaurant and we got to come up with a new menu for that restaurant. And how do we attract the same people to come back week after week after week? I think that's a really big task and different from sort of my previous work-life experiences, which was more, I think, on the B2B side.
So what would be most important to retaining those customers? Is it just delivering a great experience?
It's product. Yeah. It's all about remarkable products and getting people to love what you're doing. And I think the product market fit is key, but I think reminding people of the choices they've made and understanding the psychology of the consumer to know and how we can remind them of the smart choices they've made to use a plant-based meal kit every week is super important. But, with that said, there is a ton of competition and it feels like more and more meal kits are coming onto the scene. We're proud of the fact that we're the only exclusive plant-based meal kit still today that, we're really happy about that niche that we think we can own and take a much bigger leadership stake in. But it's always a challenge.
Why do you think that other meal kits haven't added an option for plant-based services?
I think the perception is that it's a really niche fringe audience. Okay. And our whole approach has been offering vegan food for non-vegans in sort of a bizarre sort of way. That I think a lot of vegans already know how to make lentils taste really good, and they're fluent with this mentality and the rationale behind it. It's not to say we don't love our vegan customers and that they're not as busy as the next person and enjoy the convenience of a meal kit subscription service. But I think that the larger audience, certainly from a business growth perspective, is in the flexitarian audience, who are those people that are intrigued and interested and do eat sort of a part-time vegan diet and want to have that into their lives. And I think that you're going to only be reading more articles about why meat is bad. There was a great article I just read in the Washington Post today that says meat is terrible. So I think the winds of change are at our back. Last November, the World Health Organization came out and talked about processed meats as a carcinogen. So people wanting to eat more plants and getting comfortable with that, I think, is only going to help. And I'm thrilled for other businesses to all be competing in sort of the more omnivorous space, and will hopefully be the sole choice and the logical choice in the plant-based sector.
So what does the future look like now for the Purple Carrot?
I think the future is really bright for us. I'm just ecstatic about all that we've accomplished in the short time we've been around. I think you're going to start seeing from us a greater emphasis on storytelling. I don't say that in a pejorative way, but in the sense of helping people really understand the incredibly important connection between the foods we eat, our own personal health, and the health of the environment. And we have to do a better job at that. And quite frankly, we just haven't. And we haven't been able to place our energy there yet. But coming this fall, you'll start to see a lot more from us around that. And we think that that's going to start tapping into a broader set of interests from consumers. And we continue to invest heavily in our product development. We've got a new branded box that's coming out in a couple weeks, and we're excited about that and just the continued evolution of the food and the flavors that we know our customers are going to love.
Is that also about understanding more of where food comes from as well?
Yeah, it's also very important to us. I mean, we feel like we are a mission-based and values-based company, that we want to source food from places whose values we admire and who align with ours. So whether that's sourcing from farms that either produce or practice organic farming practices, who pay fair wages to their laborers, who embrace that kind of mentality, that's who we want to be partnering with and continue to promote the goods and the unique products that might be coming from those suppliers.
I want to shift now and go into our rapid fire question.
Sure.
First question. What advice would you give to someone that wants to start their own company?
Start it. Just go.
Just go for it.
Yeah, it's with the risk that once you start, you'll never go back. If you like, I mean, maybe there's people that'll be freaked out from being an entrepreneur, but for better or worse, I could never go back and work for someone else other than myself. It's such a thrill. It's such a challenge. It's such a joy. And until you just jump in with both feet, you'll just be on the outside looking in, wondering if you can do it. And I think it's an amazing thing to start your own company.
And get comfortable being uncomfortable, like you said earlier.
Comfortable being uncomfortable. It can be really scary to think about, how do I make payroll this week? How do I raise money from investors? How do I keep employees happy? How do I deal with unhappy customers? How do I, create the right product? Is my logo correct? I mean, there are so many complexities and things that until you're in it, you have no idea that, like, oh my God, I didn't realize I have to fill out this form from this state, or I've got to deal with this lawyer for this. I mean, another good piece of advice is get great lawyers. As much as I am not a fan of lawyers in general, I think the value that a great lawyer is actually underperceived. It's just people don't understand how important that can be.
So what's your favorite vegan meal to cook?
I just made an amazing seared tofu dish that I used. It's a seared tofu, and I used spinach because I didn't have any bok choy, but it was a tofu and bok choy or spinach dish with some soy sauce, and it was spectacular. It's going to be actually out on our menu in a few weeks. It was a
awesome
homegrown one here, so that's my latest favorite.
So what's your favorite restaurant to get a meal at? Either, what's your favorite for a vegan meal, and then what's your favorite for a non-vegan meal?
So I think the greatest restaurant for vegans is a place called Veg Restaurant, which is in Philadelphia. Rich Landau, who's also one of our guest chefs in this Guest Chef Summer Series. It's his restaurant, and it's arguably, I think, one of the best vegan restaurants in the country. Maybe you're right up there with a restaurant called Crossroads in Los Angeles, which is spectacular as well. But you would never realize that you're eating purely vegan food at those restaurants. Mm-hmm. For, what was the other question? Non-vegan?
Non-vegan,
Non-vegan, What other place do I go? My favorite local spot is a place called Alta Strada here in Wellesley.
Okay.
It's my go-to spot with my wife.
What advice would you give to your 25-year-old self?
Learn how to code. I really wish that I knew how to code. I think that it's such an incredible skill. I love observing someone code and just watching this magic happen. And it's something that I have no idea how to do. And if I could go back 20 years, I would dive into that heavy.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice as well. Especially, if you have an idea for something, you can quickly do it yourself instead of having to find someone else to do it for you. And I think it's really helpful.
Yeah, and even when you do outsource to other, experts in that category, I think just understanding the process for coding would be really helpful. And I've learned quite a bit over the years, but if it was my 25-year-old self, that would be a great skill to bring forth.
It's just being able to look at it and get a sense of what it's supposed to be doing.
That's right. Yep.
So what's something about you that most people don't know?
When I was 11 years old, I could solve a Rubik's Cube in 90 seconds. And I wrote a book about solving a Rubik's Cube, sort of an easy way to solve the Rubik's Cube. And much to my dismay, after countless hours spent with my father at our kitchen table working on this manuscript, we only wrote 2/3 of the manuscript and then sent it into 20 different publishers who all said no to me. And I never finished the manuscript. And I have no idea how to solve a Rubik's Cube now because I never finished the book. So
if you could still do it. Yeah, I can't do it. I've always tried to learn though. That's all the different.
I really wish I had finished the book because I used to have fun doing that.
Do you have any favorite blogs or books?
So, Seth is just a master. I just love that guy. I can't say enough about him. He's completely inspired me and changed the way I think about every bit of business. So Seth's blog is absolutely worth reading. I'm also a huge fan of a guy named Hugh MacLeod, who puts out a blog where he does these drawings every day, and that's really great. Sort of take business concepts that he sort of solves visually with these great drawings.
Have you read Seth's books?
Everyone.
Which one's your favorite?
I think that Purple Cow was very inspiring to me about creating remarkable products, and the name Purple Carrot is named sort of in his honor, and with that in my mind about Purple Cow and Purple Carrot. I think his book Linchpin is outstanding as far as understanding the importance of being exceptional at what you do and bringing your unique art to the world so that you are always recognized as a key linchpin in your organization.
What's another startup in Boston you're most excited about?
Boston's a great startup culture. I think the guys over at Leanbox are doing something really interesting.
Okay.
They're in sort of a related yet different category, but just the same emphasis of getting people to think about food in a different way and making healthier food options available. I think that's really, really clever.
Just a few more questions here to close out. Where can people find more about Purple Carrot?
They can go online to thepurplecarrot.com and check us out there on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
Do you have any parting thoughts, advice, or suggestions for the listeners?
Eat more plants and learn why that matters. And if you're a startup enthusiast, listen to more of your podcasts and just jump in. And there's no time like the present to try to make a difference.
All right. Thank you, Andy, so much for coming on today. I learned a lot. I'll definitely try the vegan diet a little bit as well. This food that you gave me was really good.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode, please go and subscribe to this podcast on iTunes and write a review. By subscribing, you'll get all of my new episodes automatically fresh onto your podcast app. So make sure to do so, and it really helps me out in the rankings and with acquiring new users. Remember, all show notes can be found at startupbostonpodcast.com. Thank you for listening, and until next time, if you have any feedback, ideas for guests, or just want to say hi, you can reach me at nick@startupbostonpodcast.com. That's NIC@startupbostonpodcast.com. Cheers.